So in this segment, what we're actually going to start to look at is we're going to start to understand the target market that you're going into and a little bit of market segmentation. So understanding the actual market that we're going to be targeting with our product and service becomes really important when we start to think about how we're going to develop out the marketing mix. So we start to ask the obvious questions about, well, who? Who is it that we're going to be doing business with? Who is our customer? Who is the purchaser of our product or service? Who is the consumer? As well as the actual person that's actually going to be, possibly using the product. Because that might be two totally different people. But ultimately what we need to do is we need to have a good understanding of who these people are and how it is that we're going to be able to influence them and start to put together our marketing mix. When we think about the marketing mix, we start to think about, well, what is the price they want to pay? These people, how do they want to get a hold of our product or service? So the first thing we start to look at is, well, to really start to understand the market segmentation is, well, who is the target market? Are they an industrial market? Okay, are they industrial? Is the nature of our customer that this is going to be business to business? Is it an organization selling to an organization, or is it we're selling to the consumer market? Okay, are we selling to individuals or various people in the market that actually, literally people, so selling to our customers and clients. So the marketing, understanding market segmentation is the process of dividing the market into distinguishable segments. Okay, if the whole market is an orange, which piece of if it's a pie, which piece of the pie do we want to go after? Okay, and when we start to think about that, we might start thinking about these different segments within this space. We might be looking at automotive industry. We might be looking at the retail industry. We might be starting to think about real estate. We could be thinking about tourism. Okay, so there's a whole lot of different industrial markets that we might get into. Okay, so it could be the banking sector. You could be in wholesale distribution of goods. There's a whole range of different markets out there that we're familiar with, that we've seen out there. So what we need to start to think about, well, who are they and how do they operate? What is it that they want from us and how we're going to be able to do business with them? Because that's obviously going to shape how we start to put together our marketing mix and start to communicate with these people and start to work out what are their price sensitivities, how do they want to receive the goods and services, also what is going to be the best method of communicating with them, who are their stakeholders, how do they operate. Okay, each one of these has its own needs and we need to start considering that when we're actually putting together that marketing mix. When we start to look at the market as a whole, we start to look at a couple of different factors. We start looking at what's the geographic area those people start to fall into, or what segment? Where are these people located? We start to look at the demographics. We start to look at the psychographic information. And we start to look at operational variables. And based on that, we start to think about, where are these people located? Who are these people? What is it that they think and believe? And also, how often are they starting to consume our product? When we look at geographic, we start to think about, well, what's the region they're in, or what's the city size? Are they an urban person? Are they rural? Okay. Also, we need to think about the climate. Okay. If they're located by a beach, obviously we start to think about, we pick up certain buying signs. We might set up a surf shop next to the beach, but we might not necessarily put it into a regional area. A cafe, if it's in a industrial area, we know that at certain times of the afternoon there's not going to be any customers around, so we might need to think about, well, what is the geographic characteristic here? Okay, because that's going to have quite a lot of bearing on what we do. When we start thinking about the demographics, that's when we start to think about our customers in terms of, well, what's their gender? Is it male or is it female? How old are they? Are they married or single? We start to think about their occupation. We begin to think about their education. We start to think about the family size they come from. We think about their religion. We think about their ethnic background. And we might also think about their income levels. Obviously, when we think about the demographics, we know that if we're targeting our product, we have a certain customer in mind. If we're selling online products or services, it might not necessarily be to my grandmother, who might be used to shopping in a more conventional way. So, how I'm offering my product or service, it really needs to think about those things there. Family size becomes important. How many children do they have? What's the income level? So how much do they want to spend, and those sort of things. As far as psychographic information, that's when we're starting to look at, what's their social class? Are we looking for wealthy people, or what sort of person are we looking for here? We also start to look at the personality type. So what sort of person are they? Are they the sort of very alpha person? Are they a bit more relaxed? Are they a bit more, sort of the quieter types? Or what is the sort of person that we're looking for? What do they believe? What are their values? And we also start to look at their lifestyle. So what are the habits, beliefs, behaviours? What sort of activities are they out there doing day to day? Where do they work? What sort of belief systems they have? And then lastly, we start to look at the operational variables. And when we start looking at the operational variables, we start to look at how often do they use our product or service? And also, what is the purchasing criteria? So if I think about that, I might think about a local coffee shop. They know that their operational variable for the usage rate is that their customers come by every morning and buy a coffee at 9 a.m. They know that they then get the same customer back at lunchtime who purchases another coffee and maybe something to go with it. And their purchasing criteria is, if we're in a busy CBD location, they want convenience, they want the right price, they want to be able to get in and get out fairly quickly without spending a long time in a queue or anything like that. So that starts to determine their usage rate. Same. We might look at going to the movies. We might look at how often people go. What are the key dates they go? Why do they go to one cinema over another? And what happens there? So these 4 factors start to really tie into understanding our target market and the segmentation. We understand where these people are. We understand who these people are. We understand the beliefs, attitudes, the activities, the personality types of those people. And then we start to get a bit of an idea about how often they purchase the goods and services, and what are the decisions that they make that drive them to purchase that. Okay, so this starts to lead us to the process of identifying who our target market is going to be. So we want to ID the target market. A little bit of shorthand there. And when we're starting to do that, we're starting to plan who it is that we're going to go after. So we want to identify and win the customers whose needs that we can satisfy. So who are these people? Are they the coffee shop people that we're trying to get, the people wandering by our store and our storefront, or what is it that we want to do? So when we start to target that, we start to prepare a bit of an idea about who these people are that we want to go after. And we start to look at, well, what is the market share that we're interested in? Okay, so I guess when we start to look at that, what is the size of that market? Who are they? Where are they? We need to think about the trends and developments. So what's happening in that marketplace? So what's actually taking place? Moving past that, we need to think about, so what are the new and emerging markets? And we also need to think about any profitability we have in our current business. So what's our size and what's our ability to get out there and start to move into that new market? Okay, so they're a bunch of things that we start to think about when we're starting to look at our target market. When we start to profile our customer, we want to get some basic information up fairly quickly on the customer profiles. We want to know about their age, we want to know about where the individuals live, once again, their gender, their income, their level of internet usage becomes an interesting question, and also their preference for a distribution channel. So what we want to understand there is, well, what can we start to link up with and take advantage of? How do we come up with who this person is, our customer, and how we're going to reach them? Okay. We want to also start to come up with a behavioural profile. So what we need to know is, out of these things, what is the customer actually doing? And how do we interpret that behaviour? So what does it mean to us? See, we need to understand what their level of satisfaction is and their motivations to buy. So if we understand the size of the market, if we understand what the market is doing, not just what they say they're doing, but what they're actually doing. So that's that understanding their habits and behaviours, and to understand where the market's likely going to be going so we can get a bit ahead of the game. We don't just always want to be the person delivering what's already there. We want to start getting ahead of that. But also we need to think about the profitability of that market, as well as our existing profitability and how much funding we have to move into and take advantage of the new opportunities that we see there. So when we're profiling our customer, in short, what we're really trying to do is to answer the following questions. And the following questions is, who are they? Okay, what do I, so who are these people? What do they typically buy? How often do they buy it? And how can my new product or service meet their need? So how do I meet their need? Okay, if we can start to understand that, so who are these people? What is it that they're actually looking to purchase? How often do they look to purchase it? And how do I ensure that my offering actually meets their needs, that we're satisfying them? So it's essential that we understand the way the customers perceive a product in their own terms. It's not going to be how we tell them it is. They're going to make their own decisions really quickly, and they have different reasons and motivations for purchasing a particular product or service. Your morning coffee is not just purchasing a coffee. Okay, it seems like it should be, but it's not. There's more to it than that. As we know, they go to a certain barista, they want the coffee done a certain way, because it's not actually just a product. To them, it's a little bit about meeting that familiar face, participating in an activity, and it's much more than the coffee. It could be their morning time to socialise with their friends, have that cigarette before they come along. It might be their morning routine or ritual. Okay, so there's quite a lot to that, and we need to really start to break down past the obvious and start to think about, well, what's motivating these people? When we start to think about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, down the bottom we have basic physiological needs. Are they buying your good or services to stay alive? Is it food? Is it water? Is it a survival aspect? Are they starting to look at your purchase, for safety? That they have a love or belonging. Okay, your morning coffee is a bit into that area. They want to feel that they belong. They're part of a different thing. They come along. They got their membership cards that they stamp. Okay, there's a lot more to it than the basics. It can also be a little bit about esteem. Okay, thinking about, well, how does that person measure value, or how do they believe they're being measured? And also moving to possibly self-actualization. Are they moving sort of beyond that? You might find that personal development, if you're offering a product or service that is a course on personal development, they might be doing it for those reasons. Okay, so even something as simple as the morning coffee can start to affect on multiple different levels. Yes, it's the product. Yes, they're buying something as simple as a cup of coffee, but it can also be as complicated as part of a morning ritual, a routine, a belief, part of their social network that they're choosing to purchase, the ability to do other things with other people they know, to have that morning cigarette, to possibly network. Okay, there's a lot of things that go into that we need to really start to consider. What does the customer say they need and why? So what are they telling you? Are they telling you they need the product or service? Is this a stated need or an unstated need? Okay, why do they say what they say? Why do they need the product or service? What's your cup of coffee going to do that the last cup of coffee couldn't? Okay, if you're thinking about that in the cup of coffee terms, what specific functions must you be able to perform? So what is it that you need to be able to offer them, and exactly how must it work? Also, how quickly do they need the new product? Okay, if you're researching a new thing or putting a new product to market, how quickly do they need that? And what budget has been allocated for this purpose? So in other words, if you're going into this market, how much of a budget are you going to need in order to achieve these things? Okay, so start to think about, at the end of the day, your basic information is, who are these people? Bearing in mind their geography, demography, psychography. Thinking about, what do they buy? So what is the product or service they're looking for? How often? how frequently are they going to be using the goods or services, how often are they going to be coming to your store, how often are they going to be looking you up online, how often are they then going to be participating in your offering, and then lastly, how is it that you're going to make sure that you're meeting their needs? Okay, so in other words, how are you going to make sure that they get the right product at the right place at the right time to satisfy their various requirements? If you can manage to do that, you'll pretty much get your target market and segmentation down pat.